correct, sir. If you have any good ideas for vacations, please let me know. But on condition they have to be wild and crazy, because that's the kind of vacations I like. All right. So, well, good morning, everyone. So, if you remember last time, I should probably start doing the presentation. Sandy, last time, the first part, this is going to be the second part of the secure web API presentation that I made about a month ago. So we covered some ground, but we didn't have time to complete. So today we're going to take more about it. So what did we look at last time? Well, I showed you guys several things. We talked about all the players that are involved in the secure API communication. And those players include, obviously, the user. And we created a user on the local database. And then we created a Microsoft Visual Studio template, authorization server in forms of accounts control, and a resource server in forms of values control. It just comes out of the box when you create a template application in Visual Studio. And we also created the client in the form of a simple HTML page that was communicating with our API. So today we're going to look at the communication, the details of the communication between the client and the resource server. So this is the goal for this part of the presentation. So how does the communication happen? Well, the first thing that needs to happen is the client needs to log into the authorization server and send its password for validation. And then the authorization server will validate the password and will send back the code if the password is valid. So how do we do this? How do we call authorization server? Well, authorization server, in our case, accounts controller, has many endpoints, right? So which one do we call? Well, the first thing you might want to think about is looking at the API help page. So this is our application landing page, if you guys remember. When you click on the API link, you will see all the endpoints available for the accounts controller. And you might start looking here, but unfortunately, Microsoft didn't do a good job. Well, first of all, there's a few issues with this. They did not provide a lot of documentation with it. And there is no good endpoint here that would help you log into the application. So my recommendation is would not be, don't use this, okay? Do your own research. So do not use the help page from Microsoft. So which endpoint do we call? Well, it turns out to be that the endpoint we need to call is token, all right? Well, how do we do this? Well, let's take a look at the code. So let's go back to the code that we built last time. We see that there is a logging function right here. Can you guys see? Is it the font big enough? Alright, so I can make it a little bigger. So the logging function, what it does, it actually calls the token endpoint from the accounts controller. And it passes all the, it passes the username and the password from our form serializes the password and passes it to the controller. And it also includes, of course, please can you not do this as a this way? I know I'm doing it a lot. So, and what it does, it also includes the grant type password keyword as part of the form data. This keyword actually instructs the accounts controller to take our password, validate it, and return the token back to us. So what do we do with the token? Well, on a successful return from the account controller, we're actually going to save the token. So how do we save the token? Well, all we do is right here, if you look at the save token position, we take the token that comes back from the data controller, and we're saving it in the local variable. It doesn't have to be local variable, it can be local session as long as the client has access to it and can use it for the request. So the reason we need to save the token, let's look back at the diagram. You can see we take the token, and then the client should be able to take the token and pass it forward to the resource server next time it's making the API calls. So that's why it is important to save it on the client. So let's go back to the code and see how it actually works. So let's restart this application. So here's our form. I'll make it bigger for you so you guys can see. So this is the form we built last time. So we're going to fill out the email and the password we created last time. Then we're going to create this login button. And if everything happens as it should, we should be getting back a token from the accounts controller. So let's wait and take a look at this implementation takes place. And here we go. We got the access token that came back from the accounts controller. It means it validated our password, the password was okay, so it returned back the access token. And this is the access token that will be saved in our local variable, in our page. So what do we do next? Well, let's take a look at the code. Let's take a look at the diagram. What do we need to do next? We need to take the token and pass it to the resource server right there. So how do we do that? Well, let's take a look at the code. We have a send request, that is our plain old AJAX request in the values controller. And the only difference from what we did in that first part of the presentation, now we're just changing the headers a little bit. So how do we change the headers? Well, we have this header button. Let's look at the definition of this. And we'll see that all it does, it checks if the access token exists on the local client. It will pull it, and it will add this authorization keyword with the bearer word and the access token value to the header. And this is all it takes. That is all it needs for the value controller that is protected by the authorized attribute to give you back the results. All it needs is this. So let's see how it works. So we'll go back to here. We'll need to better show what's happening. Let's add developer tools. Let's look at the network. Well, we already have the network tab. So let's make this a little smaller. Now we have this token. Remember, we have this token saved on the local variable. I didn't close the page, so the variable is still there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on send request, and what's going to happen with every request I'm going to go through. Well, first, we see that we got the result back. This means that our authorized attribute on the values controller has been cleared. So the API is working. And the request on the surface, this looks like the same request we made in the first part of the presentation. It's just a get request to the values controller. And it failed in the first part of the presentation. Well, here it didn't fail. Why? Well, to see why it didn't fail, we need to look at the values. The request actually itself in the details and the header portion of the request. So if we look at that, you can see that the authorization attribute has been added and the token has been passed to the values controller. And this is what allows us to clear the authorized attribute in the values controller. So once again, to review real quick, because I think I'll be running out of time pretty soon. So all we had to do to make an authorized web API call to the values controller is first we had to call the token endpoint on the accounts controller, pass the username and password to it, and also make sure we including this keyword that's not very well documented. Then we're getting back the token, we're saving this token in the local variable in our page, and then to make the actual authorized request, all we do is we're doing a get request and we're changing the headers by adding the authorization bearer and the access token value to the request. And this is how the authorized web API call is